So Tna Impact took place once again in Orlando, Florida. The show starts with Eric Young coming to the ring. Young says that he's ready to get it on with Montel Porter at Slammiversary for the world title. And he wants Porter to come out with Dixie Carter if he chooses. So the Black Brigade walk out onto the stage. Porter tells Young that he doesn't give a fuck about Dixie and that Young should say what he has to say. Young implies that Porter can't beat him without help from Kenny King and Robert Lashley. And Porter responds by saying that he will take the title, not necessarily saying that he'll do it without them. Young tells Porter that he just wants a one-on-one match, but Porter says that whatever happens, happens. Young says that if he's going to lose, he wants to lose without interference, and that he'll sacrifice whatever he has to in order to get a fair match. Porter says that Young can choose the stipulation for the title match at Slammiversary, but he has to defeat the Black Brigade in 3 separate matches on the show. However, King announces that Young only has to beat 2 of them. Young waits for a confirmation from Porter, and he gets it. Porter tells him that Lashley will be his first opponent. Decent segment, but the lack of logic with Porter's power roll continues. After Porter makes a decision, King interrupts and dictates how things will be. And then Porter goes along with it. Unless Porter is going to appoint King as his co-director, he should be the only one determining the what and the how. Also, a person with absolute power is not going to make it easy for someone to kick him off the top of the mountain. Porter should be making the situation so difficult for Young that he has doubts about retaining the title. Young was already worried about Porter winning dirty, and Porter should have stepped on the psychological neck. Allowing Young to choose the stipulation for the title match at Slammiversary puts his foot in a cracked open door, thus allowing him to knock it down. The Power Lord should know better than that. So then we have Eric Young versus Robert Lashley. Decent match. The match ends with Lashley securing Young in a torture rack, but Young hits Lashley in the face and rakes Lashley's eyes in order to free himself. Young comes off the ropes, but Lashley clotheslines him. Lashley goes for the pin, but Young kicks out. He lifts Young up into an over-the-shoulder backbreaker, but Young shakes himself loose and takes Lashley down for a crucifix pin. However, Lashley kicks out. Young quickly takes Lashley down by the legs and executes a jackknife pin, but Lashley kicks out again. Young drop kicks Lashley and sends his head into the turnbuckle. Young whips Lashley to the opposite corner, but Lashley reverses the whip. He charges, but Young gives him a boot to the face. Young goes to the middle rope and launches himself, but Lashley catches him, puts him over his shoulder, and drills him with a running power slam for the 3. The winner of the match, Robert Lashley. After the match, Lashley grabs the title belt, drops it in order to pound away at Young, and then takes it again, attempting to hit Young with it. Then Samoa Joe comes running to the ring. Lashley turns to face Joe and tries to strike him with the belt, but Joe ducks and comes back with a punch flurry. He comes off the ropes, but Lashley decks him with a clothesline. Lashley charges, but Joe pulls the top rope down, resulting in Lashley ending up outside the ring. Joe stares at Lashley as Lashley retreats. Short, simple build for their match at Slammiversary, but the more important thing, as subtle as it was Lashley winning clean over Young, a pinfall on the world champion. This could be the sign of a title push for Lashley, so if Montel Porter fails to win the title at Slammiversary, Lashley could be the next one in line. It would make sense. He just beat the man. So then we see Jeff Willow backstage, and Willow expresses his wishes to engage with Magnus and Bram as he uniquely chooses to express that in his own way. So then we see Eric Young backstage with a trainer head, and Young is in serious pain as his back is giving him shit. This would become a recurring theme as the underdog aura encompasses Young, and now he must somehow make it work and win 2 matches with a fucked up back to get a stipulation. So then we see Samoa Joe backstage. Joe says that events from earlier reflect the crap that Montel Porter has spread all over the company. Joe puts over Lashley's physicality, but he still plans to have him for dinner at Slammiversary. And he's going to save some room in the belly and get his dessert in the form of Montel Porter. So then we see Magnus and Bram come down to the ring. Bram proudly introduces the old Magnus and hands off the mic. Magnus says that he credits Bram for steering him away from the image that others wanted him to be. He says that it sickened him to be a pussy in a suit, but with Bram beside him, he can wash away the puppet funk and be himself. Bram takes the mic back and says that Jeff Hardy became Jeff Willow so that he would be maniacal enough to cause apprehension, but he hasn't done anything to get the Magnus. Then Jeff Willow comes out and basically says that he and another will take Magnus out. Magnus says that with Bram he will kick dirt on both sides of Jeff. Willow continues to stress the word we. And Magnus and Bram want to know who the other guy is. Abyss comes down to the ring and the 4 go at it, with Magnus and Bram being turned back. It seems that the only reason to continue the Magnus and Bram beef with Jeff Willow, now with Abyss involved, is to establish not only Magnus's character redefinition, but to establish Magnus and Bram as a credible tag team. Adding Abyss to the mix now means the eventual standard tag team match and likely the gimmick singles and or tag team matches. But the larger focus should be on Magnus and Bram becoming eventual contenders to the World Tag Team Championship. This current deal with Jeff Willow and Abyss will be the quote-unquote test phase. So then we see Ethan Carter III backstage with a big-ass bandage on his forehead. Ethan swears to get back at Bully Ray for the trickle of blood he suffered from last week. He promises to pull back the layer on Bully Ray, and he wraps it with that lame catchphrase. If TNA wants Ethan as a future yet credible world champion, they have to separate 3 entities from him: Dixie Carter, Rockstar Dud, and that line. So then we have Mike Knox of the Menagerie versus Robbie E of the Glorified Jobbers. To call this garbage makes actual garbage look good and smell good. The Menagerie with their 10-minute entrance, the Menagerie music playing during the match, Zema Ion and Crazy Steve out-horning each other, Rob Terry flexing and smashing heads, and that's it. And Robbie E running up the entranceway with balloons chasing his ass. And somewhere in this mess, Mike Knox won the match. The Glorified Jobbers still suck, and the Menagerie is not working. So then we see Ethan Carter III and Rockstar Dud backstage planning something for Bully Ray. And Brooke Tessmacher is going to be a part of it. Tessmacher is going to be a part of this. So then we see Ethan Carter III and Rockstar Dud come to the ring with chairs in position in the ring. Ethan wants everyone to know about Bully Ray's previous doings, and he calls out Brooke Tessmacher to give an assist. Tessmacher comes to the ring, and the chairs get filled. Ethan implies to Brooke that Bully Ray was fucking other chicks when he was with her and threatened her with a wood sandwich if she didn't serve it up. Then Rockstar Dud says that she's the mother of Bully Ray's baby. He calls her a slut, and she makes a move to beat his ass. Ethan and Dud try to sandwich her, but then Bully Ray comes to the ring. After Bully Ray demands the medical status of Ethan's forehead, he tells him that the wood is coming. Bully Ray turns to Tessmacher and tells her that she was cool as his piece and that his mind is in a different direction. And he also says that he hopes that she stays well. They hug, and Ethan walks back down the entranceway saying that Bully Ray licks too much ass and needs to settle this. Ethan challenges Bully Ray to a tables match at Slammiversary, but Bully Ray counters with a Texas death match proposal, which Ethan accepts. If TNA could have taken the better half of this segment from the moment that Bully Ray came out and stretched it out to a full promo between the two with the focus on Bully Ray and Ethan and their match, it would have been a better build. Instead, we had to deal with bullshit stacked way up there that involved Tessmacher for no reason. Here's a dumb idea. Why not have her do something in relation to the women's division? I know, TNA, it makes too much sense. So then we have Eric Young versus Kenny King. Decent match. The match ends with King trying to execute a superplex on Young. Young punches King's side and shoves him off the middle, but King does a back handspring and charges back toward Young. However, Young comes off the top rope with a flying body press. Both men are on the mat as Junior Hebner delivers the double count. King and Young get upward, and Young gains the advantage and punches King. Young whips him into the ropes, does a drop down, and comes back with a flying fist to the face. He decks King and follows it with a body slam. Young goes to the top rope, but King nails him across the face. After a brief exchange, Young knocks King down, but King hits a diluted enziguri that stuns Young. King props Young across the shoulders and delivers the royal flush. He goes outside on the ring apron and attempts a springboard somersault plancha, but Young moves out of the way. Young kicks King in the midsection and executes a pile driver to get the 3. The winner of the match, Eric Young. It was a predictable result because of the 3-match arc that was presented. The dramatic aspect has to be maximized, and in order to do that, Young has to win a 3rd match over Montel Porter with a bad back in order to get his 2 wins. Fine, yet predictable. So then we see Eric Young backstage, and the same medical head from before pleads with Young to not do further damage to his back. Young decides to keep pushing, and then Jeremy Borash approaches. Young says that Montel Porter doesn't have the balls to defeat him and that he has to get that win. So then we have a 3-way match for the number 1 contendership to the Women's Championship. Gail Kim versus Madison Rayne versus Brittany. Decent match. During the match, the beautiful people come out and join Mike, Tna, and Taz at the commentators table to add absolutely nothing. The match ends with Madison and Brittany executing a double suplex on Gail. Brittany goes for the pin on Gail, but Madison breaks it up. Madison and Gail have a face-off, and then Madison pops her with a forearm. Madison charges, but Brittany drops down, pulling the middle rope toward her, and that sends Madison to the outside. Brittany screams, "Why?" to Madison, and then Gail takes her down by her legs from the outside, pulls her to the ring post, and applies a figure four leg lock around the post. Angelina and Velvet decide to come down to ringside as Gail breaks the hold. Gail attempts to re-enter the ring, but Madison pulls her feet from under her, causing Gail to hit her head on the ring apron and fall to the floor. Shockingly, referee Brian Stifler is distracted by his Velvet fantasies, and while she has his attention, Angelina pulls Madison out of the ring to the floor. During the time that Stifler is occupied with Angelina as he tries to put his threesome together, Brittany takes Gail down with a clothesline. Gail gets up and makes a move toward Velvet, who is on the ring apron, as Brittany comes up behind her. Gail ducks, and Velvet ends up blasting Brittany in the face with her spray. Gail finishes off a disoriented Brittany with the Eat Defeat to get the 3. The winner of the match, Gail Kim. When a contender is being pushed toward a championship match, he or she doesn't need to win a match to become the number one contender. Gail didn't need to win a pointless match such as this when she was already getting the title shot. The Gail-Angelina match could have been built up with a backstage segment, and the match time could have been devoted to progressing the Madison Rayne-Brittany program. Say, Brittany versus Velvet, in which Madison getting involved would reflect such progression. So then we see Montel Porter and Brian Hebner backstage having a discussion. Porter is asked what the talk was about, and he says that he wants Junior to call a proper match despite the history of the Hebner reputation. So then we have the main event. Eric Young versus Montel Porter. Decent match. The match ends with Porter powerbombing Young on the middle rope turnbuckle. He follows that with a running boot to the face. Porter goes for the pin, but Young kicks out. Porter goes for the pin 2 more times, but Young avoids the pin. Porter leaves the ring and returns with a chair. He sits in the chair and looks down at Young, telling him not to get up. As Young struggles to get to his feet, Porter gets up, takes the chair, and slams Young across the back. Junior rings the bell. The winner of the match by disqualification, Eric Young. And then Kitty King and Robert Lashley come to the ring, and King hands Porter as the 3 stand over Young. Porter takes the mic and tells Young that the stipulation that he chooses won't matter because he's still taking the title. The Black Brigade go through some mocks of Porter as the champion, and then they leave. As they head up the entranceway, Young grabs the mic and struggles to pull himself onto the ropes. He tells Porter that the title match will be in a steel cage. Show ends. Montel Porter has failed to properly display the power that he holds because he has given Eric Young the power. Because of that, Young could have eliminated that false presentation by making this stipulation. Porter losing the title match means that he's no longer the director of wrestling operations. It doesn't mean that Young would be, it would just mean that Porter wouldn't be. Instead, we get the stipulation of a cage match. A cage match that won't keep anyone out because of the lack of keeping the door locked, as well as the ridiculous holes in the corners of the cage. Now the news comes out that Porter is injured and won't be facing Young at Slammiversary. Even with Porter not in the match, Young could have still had the chance to take the power away, if the stipulation had been the right one. Maybe Porter is displaying unseen power rather than power that's seen. And that is the type of power that is dangerous. I'm Tazmark 2002, and that was my Tna Impact Analysis for June 12th, 2014. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter. Tazmark 2002, that's TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tazmark2002@gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P. live every Monday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's channel. And if you can't watch us live, you can always watch the archive. Decent show. Decent show, but barely. Once again, we have another pay-per-view on Sunday. And once again, it's another poorly built one. It's not about whether Slammiversary will be good or not, but about focusing on generating interest in purchasing. Matches were thrown together with little or no hype, and neither the X Division match nor the Von Erich appearance got any significant promotion. There has to be more of a business slant towards selling the pay-per-view, because money is the reason why you're selling. One can feel that they have the best product in a particular market, but without the proper marketing and promotion, pushing it is a waste. Either sell your pay-per-views or don't have them. Make the choice. I'm Tazmark 2002. Gone.